Hey there everyone, welcome back to the CMS-Connected show, the CMS industry's only news commentary show. I'm your host, Tyler Papin, along with Scott Lewer from Digital Clarity Group, and I guess kind of what they say is, when it rains, well, it certainly pours. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that, but hey, life gives you lemons, make lemonade, right? And that's exactly what we're doing today, but with just a little bit more water in that lemonade more than ever. Anyways, we're coming to you from the deck of the Liberty ship, as always, in beautiful Boston Harbor. Not so beautiful Boston today, but it's okay. Anyways, today we're talking all about findability, or to be more direct, the art of and science of making content easy to find through enterprise search. Now, joining us on board to discuss enterprise search, we have our special guest, Lou Giordano, CMO at Activio. Lou, welcome in. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Every day's a good day.
Are you dry? That's my question to you.
Not wet behind the ears. Definitely dry.
Absolutely perfect. So we've got just a great interview lined up for you guys right now. So let's kind of jump right into it, Lou, and I'll start by just kind of asking this. Enterprise technology, why is it, in search technology specifically, why is it growing more powerful at this point in time?
You know, I think the questions that were being asked are more sophisticated. You know, years ago, this was about knowledge worker productivity, just finding answers and presenting a result set. Nowadays, people want more than just results. They want answers, right? So the questions are more based on natural language processing, machine learning, cognitive search, right? So it's really more about finding meaning in search results as opposed to just presenting a list of answers, right, or results. So it's much more sophisticated. Also, I think we can see the market start to merge a little bit more with an adjacent space of business intelligence, you know, big data. So people are expecting more comprehensive answers to be presented back to them in context. So I think, you know, from a vendor point of view, we're being challenged more to give more relevant answers always, but to present that information in context in a more personalized way so that people can understand the why, not just the what.
Does the big data effect, I mean, it used to be this whole kind of garbage in, garbage out, that you would basically say, you know, only capture what you really want to be able to use later on. And now the big data kind of mentality says, just grab it all, and then, you know, you'll figure it out later, sort of thing. Does that make it easier on you in your business to have more data to be going through and allow you to be more precise, or does that actually just compound the problem significantly?
Yeah, you know, it's really interesting because it used to be a paradigm where it was sort of ask and answer, right? And nowadays, people are finding results a little bit more from like a browsing point of view, right? So it's much more like a carousel. So the more clothes you have on the rack, the more engaged the shopper. So, you know, from our point of view at Activio, we're really targeting the Fortune 1000, right? So the scale, we're built for scalability right out of the gate. So I don't think we're at a spot, you know, from an Activio point of view where we wish there were less information. We've always been able to handle the high end. I really do believe that having more information, you know, as long as it's governed in its proper way, is great because there's something out there for everybody. So, you know, presenting it in a useful way means that somebody can find the right search result for them.
Sure. So you mentioned that you talk about the Fortune 1000. What I want to know is, you know, talking about the customers, what are they looking for from their search technology, really?
Yeah, you know, I don't want to get too philosophical here, but people really are, you know, searching for meaning. You know, it is really about natural language processing. It's more about cognitive search than just enterprise search. So the difference there is people are trying to find sentiment in their answers. They're trying to understand the context of what they're searching in. So you can imagine, you know, we do a lot of work with Cisco, right? Cisco, we do their 3 million, you know, website pages. So there's tons of content there. We try to make it very findable for people. In addition, we do not only their internet site, but we also do their intranet, so which they call Cisco Sales Connect. So if you're a sales rep for Cisco or a partner of Cisco, they're largely partner driven, you can pull up in front of your customer. There's an app on an iPad. You simply click on the Cisco Sales Connect app, type in the name of your customer, and boom, you're presented lots of information from the structured side of the house as well as the unstructured content, right? It's all being married together in context of that one customer. So it's not just keyword searching, looking for things. We're presenting information in the Cisco app as, you know, unified information from both the structured and the unstructured in the context of this customer. So here's all the products that they already have bought. Here's what you should try to upsell them. Here are the brochures you can give the customer during the visit. here's the sales pitch you should say. So all of that from one simple query, right? So that's significantly more sophisticated than it was, 5, 8 years ago.
So Lou, with Ativio, you conduct essentially a federated search, right? That allows it to basically search across all of the enterprise's applications, content repositories, structured and unstructured, like you talked about. So does that process, what I've seen is that so many of the content repositories and applications themselves have improved their own search, or they talk about this quite a bit. Right. Is your application, are you able to actually, is federated search get better from that at all, or not rely on it whatsoever? Do you just kind of look at the data and the content itself, or are you able to benefit from the improvement themselves or their own algorithms?
I follow you, yeah. So what we will leverage from the sources, if you will, are the security permissions, right? The protocols there. Yep. So, what's unique here is our ability to ingest all the content from these repositories into our own index. Yep. And have that separate from all the security protocols. Yeah. So as content is updated or security is updated, they're done independently. And then what we do is high-speed joins basically on query. So we're able to marry the correct result with the correct security protocol and present that to the user itself. So we'll do the ingestion ourselves. Yeah.
Now talk about the journey itself. Now customers, where do they, and how do they, I should say, how do customers actually begin their enterprise search journey really?
Yeah, enterprise search is a very mature market space. The last statistics I saw were from our friends at Gartner maybe 2 years ago, 2014, I think, and they were talking about a market size of 1.6 going to 2.7 from 2013 to 2017. So that's a pretty healthy, compounded annual growth rate, right? Sure. 11%. So there's something going on here, but the overall size of the market is not ginormous, and I think that's because it's a very mature space. The large global enterprises that we focus on have had enterprise search platforms for a number of years, and it's really sort of the mid-size, the smaller organizations that are looking maybe to begin their journey from a blank slate. And in some cases, they might look at open source technology for simple site source and site search, and that's fine. But I think the larger organizations are either looking to migrate off of Microsoft Fast, because that's an end-of-life product, so they have to get off of that. Google Search Appliance, so there might be a new beginning there because they have to get off of Google Search Appliance if they don't want to be pushed into the cloud. But many times these large enterprises are starting into the intranet types of things.
Really?
Yeah, and they'll also go into using search in more of an application framework. So you'll look at processes that are highly manual, very strategic, something like trade monitoring or e-communication surveillance, anti-money laundering. These types of things rely on search to a very heavy degree, but they're very manual processes that have a high degree of risk associated with them. So people are starting to use search in more of an applications context. So that ability to unify the structured with the unstructured, but put it into a particular business process is really where sort of the next frontier, if you will.
And how about the expectations of consumers? I think in general, certainly we've come to probably expect an awful lot more from our search given what Google has done in the consumer world. Does that affect things on the enterprise side significantly?
Absolutely. So the expectations, couldn't be higher, right? People expect that consumer look and feel, that interaction with their search technology, and they want it to be transparent, right? So that's really underscores the whole idea of the natural language processing. People want to be able to search using natural language, not just keywords and certain types of queries. They just want to interact like they interact with Google, and they want to be able to see the complete picture in context. So I think that really has.
And that expectation is satisfied today. So in other words, it is fairly similar feel.
Well, I was going to say that's my question. To be totally honest with you, when I think of that, and I say, okay, that's our expectation. The bar is set so flippin' high. Right. Can you actually meet that? Is that actually possible?
Yes. I think it's all dependent on how focused you are on that cognitive search, that natural language processing, that machine learning. From an Ativio point of view, we've got a long pedigree in that space. So I do believe that we're doing quite well there. But I think that's sort of where the market is heading, and I think as you see things move more into the big data space, merging this sort of natural expression, this natural language processing, this machine learning, and marrying that unification of the structured with the unstructured.
Yeah.
I think that's sort of the rich experience that consumers in the enterprise experience today. And I think they're experiencing it today, and I think that's what we'll start to see more and more over time.
Okay, great.
I was just saying, I didn't mean
No,
to cut you off,
sure.
Paul.
I mean, also, I know from my history in the past that search inside the organization was significantly more difficult to accomplish.
Yes.
In part, and I remember even when Google Search Appliance came out, I mean, it stunk because Google really benefited from the masses of the millions and millions of searches that were being conducted. Then you had the relevance engine was created automatically because of that. Inside the organization, maybe not at Cisco, but at most companies, you don't have millions and millions of searches being conducted, so you don't have that relevance engine nearly as fine-tuned.
Yes.
Is that still a factor?
It is, but I think one of the other key items there is security, right? So Google has the ability, has the luxury of dealing with public-facing information. So having to deal with security at a row level, a document level, at a source level, much more sophisticated inside the enterprise than the public web. So you want to make sure that you're not letting sensitive information that's in your intranet leak out into the internet, into your internet
or
site.
Or even stay within the company, but to somebody else who shouldn't have access.
Exactly
You don't
right,
have
right.
the permissions within the application itself. You shouldn't be able to search for it.
That's right.
Yeah, makes sense.
So you started, in your previous answer, you actually started talking about kind of what the future holds. So I'm curious to get your thoughts on that. What's next in all of this right now? Where is it headed?
Yeah, so I do see that there'll be an acceleration of search blending into the big data space more. So I think you'll see more vendors sort of catching up with that idea of unifying the structured with the unstructured, which is today sort of more for leaders of the pack, if you will. I think also there's much more emphasis on not just connecting to one or two sources, but it's much more about applying that context, really letting people ask in that natural language and helping them understand that in context. So I think you'll see more personalization, more predictive. So it's more about search will know who I am, right? Where I'm asking the question from, in which geography. That all tunes the relevancy, of course. And so I think we'll see more of a reliance on that natural language, that looking for the sentiment, understanding the meaning that's being asked about. So what's the difference between Washington State and Washington as a person? So really being able to fine tune on that type of sentiment, that type of relevancy, I think we'll start to see more of.
That word sentiment, I think, kind of solves it all, doesn't it?
Yeah. Last question is, for me, is I just really wonder. You've read the Filter Bubble, that book, and all. What's your thoughts on that in general? The notion that essentially we are all being shown results that many others who seem to be like us are seeing, and maybe we're not getting access to those results that maybe we should also be exposed to. And so actually we're kind of now all looking at the same thing, consuming the same thing in the consumer world. That might be news of a particular slant, that might be all sorts of things, but how does that play in your world?
Yeah, breathing your own air constantly is not healthy, right? And I think we've seen this, with Facebook, what type of news stories are being presented and those kinds of things. So I do think it's about that browsing experience, right? So people do want full access to all the information, but they do want it organized in such a way, whether it's by navigating by facet or whatnot, where they have the ability to peruse the information, to browse the information. So it is interesting to have relevancy calculated for you. But it's also interesting to many end users, the consumers of the search technology, to be able to see, oh, this was put together by my data science team. I'm going to give that more credibility. Oh, this is a data set that was leveraged by my analytics team. This is something I'm going to look at even though it didn't come at top of the list. So having that ability to sort of browse, I think, clears the air a little bit, if you will. It makes it so that you don't have to just be limited to a certain set of predefined
you actually
results.
Get to that long tail of answers.
Exactly
and
right.
Not only just focus on the 80%.
So it leaves the power in the hands of the person, ultimately. So I think that's ultimately what we all want to get to.
Interesting.
Yep.
Right, very cool. And for anybody that was wondering, those horns that you heard in the background, those were all cheers for Lou this entire time. So I mean, people love you. That's
Always
the way
like
it
to
works. Exactly. Lou, for folks out there want to get in touch, where's the best place they can find you?
Yes, I can be reached at Attivio at lgiordano@attivio.com. That's ATTIVIO.
Excellent. Great stuff. He is Lou Giordano of Attivio. I'm Tyler Piven for Scott Leroy. We'll be right back in just a few seconds with our vendor spotlight.
With a state-of-the-art responsive front end and fully customizable user experience, commerce tools can be put to use with either .NET, Java, or PHP. Focus on what you want to sell. Let us handle the how with an e-commerce technology enabling you to create engaging shopping experiences.